No air support, no backup, no way out. 12 elite Navy SEALs pinned down in a kill zone, bleeding, surrounded, seconds from being wiped off the map. Every radio call for help hit a wall of static and bad weather. Every escape route collapsed under enemy fire. Inside the command tent, officers screamed into dead radios while a quiet woman in the corner studied a mud-stained map. No rank on her collar, no patch on her sleeve, just calm eyes that saw what everyone else missed. They laughed at her, dismissed her, told her to stay out of the way. Then she walked into the rain, alone. What happened next turned 25 enemy fighters into ghosts and made an entire assault team believe in miracles. Before we dive in, if this story grips you, stay until the end. Hit that like button. Drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this mission has traveled. Let's go. The rain came down like hammers. Not the gentle kind that whispers against canvas. This was the violent, suffocating downpour that turned dirt into rivers and swallowed sound. It hammered the roof of the forward operations tent in Carcine Valley so hard that voices inside had to shout just to be heard 3 feet away. The valley itself was a scar in the earth, narrow, brutal, wrapped in jungle so thick that satellites couldn't see through it and drones flew blind. Perfect place for an ambush. Perfect place to die. Inside the tent, the air was thick with tension, cigarette smoke, and the metallic taste of panic barely held in check. Maps were spread across collapsible tables, their edges curling from humidity. Corners weighed down with empty MRE packets and dented canteens. Red circles marked enemy positions. Blue marks showed friendly forces, most of them now blinking weakly on a digital tablet that kept losing signal. Major Colin Reeves stood at the center of it all, jaw tight, eyes bloodshot. He hadn't slept in 36 hours. His uniform was streaked with mud and sweat, sleeves rolled up to the elbows, revealing forearms covered in faded tattoos and fresh scratches. He was a lifer, 22 years in, 3 combat tours, a chest full of ribbons that didn't mean a damn thing right now, because right now, 12 of his men were about to die. Say again, Viper 1, Reeves barked into the headset, pressing one hand against his ear to block out the noise. You are breaking up. Repeat your last. Static hissed back, crackling and wet, punctuated by bursts of distant gunfire that bled through the transmission. Then a voice came through, ragged, breathless, barely human. Viper 1, taking heavy fire, 4 wounded, can't move, requesting immediate extract. The transmission cut out. Reeves slammed a fist onto the table. Coffee sloshed out of a tin cup, soaking into the corner of the map. Around him, 6 other officers and analysts froze, eyes locked on him, waiting for orders that didn't exist. Get me air support, Reeves snapped, turning to Captain Liu, the logistics officer hunched over a radio rig in the corner. Now! Liu didn't even look up. His face was pale, expression hollow. Negative, sir. Weather's got everything grounded. Apaches can't fly in this soup. Medevac's a no-go. Even the Ospreys are locked down. Then get me ground support. Pull a QRF from... Already tried, Lieutenant Oakes cut in, arms crossed, face grim. Nearest quick reaction force is 40 clicks out. Roads are washed out. They'd never make it in time. Reeves stared at the map like it was lying to him. Blue dot, red circles, a widening gap between hope and reality. Viper 1 was a 12-man SEAL reconnaissance element that had pushed deep into enemy-held territory to gather intel on a high-value target, a warlord suspected of moving weapons through the valley. The op had been clean, surgical, in and out, until it wasn't. Somehow, the enemy had known. Somehow, they'd been waiting. And now Viper 1 was trapped on a ridgeline with no cover, no reinforcements, and a shrinking perimeter that was about to collapse entirely. Reeves turned toward the tent's entrance, where rain poured down in a solid sheet. Beyond it, the jungle was a wall of green and black, alive with the hiss of water and the low rumble of distant thunder. Somewhere out there, good men were dying, and he couldn't do a damn thing about it. Sir. The voice was quiet, calm, almost swallowed by the storm. Reeves turned. Standing near the tent side entrance, half hidden in shadow, was a woman. She was small, maybe 5'6", lean but not fragile, with sharp features and short dark hair pulled back in a tight bun. Her gear was plain. No body armor. No tactical vest. just a weatherproof jacket, cargo pants, and boots that had seen serious miles. No rank, no unit insignia. Nothing that said military except the way she stood, still, centered, entirely unbothered by the chaos around her. Reeves blinked. He'd forgotten she was even there. Mara Vance, civilian contractor, intelligence analyst, supposedly. Brought in 2 weeks ago by some faceless bureaucrat at JSOC who said she had specialized skill sets and unique operational value. No one knew what the hell that meant. No one cared. She'd spent most of her time in the corner of various tents, taking notes, saying almost nothing, and drawing curious stares from soldiers who couldn't figure out why a woman who looked like a grad student was wandering around a combat zone. Most of them assumed she was CIA. Others thought she was NSA. A few joked she was just lost. Right now, Reeves didn't have time for mysteries. "Not now, Vance," he muttered, turning back to the map. "I can help." Her voice was even. No pleading, no urgency, just a statement. Reeves didn't look up. "Unless you've got a gunship in your pocket, I don't see how." "I don't need a gunship." That made him pause. He turned, irritation flashing across his face. "What the hell are you talking about?" Mara stepped closer, boots barely making a sound on the wet tarp floor. She moved like someone who knew how to be invisible. Her eyes, dark, steady, disturbingly calm, flicked to the map, then to the radio, then back to Reeves. "You've got a team pinned down on Grid Echo 7. High ground, limited cover. Enemy force estimated at 30 plus, entrenched in a tree line approximately 600 meters east. Weather's blocking air support. Ground reinforcements are too far out." Reeves stared at her. "I know all that." "Then you also know that without intervention, they're dead in 20 minutes. The bluntness of it hit like a slap. Around the tent, conversation stopped. Officers turned, eyes narrowing. Lieutenant Oakes snorted. "And what? You're going to walk out there and save them yourself?" A few chuckles rippled through the tent, nervous, bitter laughter that came from men who didn't know what else to do. Mara didn't react. She didn't smile, didn't flinch. She just looked at Oakes until he shifted uncomfortably and looked away. Reeves felt something cold settle in his gut. Not fear, not exactly, just awareness. The kind of instinct that told you when someone wasn't what they seemed. "Vance," he said slowly, "what exactly are you proposing?" She nodded toward the map. "Give me their exact coordinates. Wind speed and direction, elevation, radio frequency." "Why?" "Because I'm going to fix this." Silence. Lou laughed, a sharp, disbelieving bark. "You're kidding, right? You're gonna what? Talk them out of it?" Mara's gaze shifted to him, flat, cold. "No, I'm gonna kill them." The tent went still. Reeves felt his pulse tick up. He studied her face, searching for arrogance, delusion, desperation, anything that would explain the insanity of what she'd just said. He found nothing, just certainty. "You're serious," he said quietly. "Yes." "You're talking about a solo op. No support, no backup, no extract, in hostile territory, in a storm." "Yes." "And you think you can neutralize a 30-man enemy force by yourself?" "I've done it before." Reeves opened his mouth, closed it. Around him, officers exchanged looks, half shocked, half amused. Someone muttered something about desk jockeys losing their minds. But Reeves didn't laugh, because something in her eyes told him she wasn't lying. He leaned in, voice dropping. "Who the hell are you?" Mara didn't answer right away. She just tilted her head slightly, like she was deciding how much to say. "Someone who doesn't let good men die when I can stop it." Reeves felt the weight of that statement settle over him. He glanced at the map, at the radio, at the rain pounding outside. No air support, no QRF, no time. He had nothing, except maybe this. He straightened, jaw set. "Lou, give her the coordinates." "Sir, you can't be—" "Now, Captain." Lou hesitated, then grabbed a tablet, fingers flying over the screen. He scribbled numbers onto a scrap of paper and handed it to Mara without looking at her. She took it, scanned it once, then folded it into her pocket. Reeves stepped closer, voice low enough that only she could hear. If you're bullshitting me, if you get out there and freeze up or get yourself killed, I will never forgive myself for letting you walk out that door. Mara met his eyes. You won't have to. She turned and walked toward the tent entrance. Vance? She paused, glancing back. Reeves hesitated, then said the only thing that mattered. Bring them home. She nodded once, and then she stepped into the rain. The jungle swallowed her whole. 1 second she was there, small, quiet, unremarkable. The next, she was gone. Inside the tent, silence stretched. Reeves stared at the empty doorway, rain hammering down beyond it, mind spinning. Oaks broke the quiet. Sir, what the hell just happened? Reeves didn't answer. He didn't know. All he knew was that he just sent a woman he didn't understand into a kill zone to save 12 of the best trained operators in the world. And somehow, against all logic, he believed she could do it. Liu turned back to his radio, muttering under his breath. This is insane. Reeves didn't disagree, but insane was all they had left. 600 meters away, deep in the valley, Staff Sergeant Marcus Cole pressed his back against a boulder and tried not to bleed out. His left thigh was wrapped in a hasty tourniquet, the fabric already soaked through. His rifle was almost empty. His radio was dying, and the enemy was closing in. Around him, the remnants of Viper 1 hunkered in a shallow depression on the ridgeline. 11 men, 4 of them wounded, all of them running on fumes. They'd been pinned down for 20 minutes, felt like hours. Bullets cracked overhead, splintering trees, kicking up mud. The enemy had them zeroed. Every time someone moved, gunfire erupted. Cole keyed his radio, voice hoarse. Viper 1 to Overwatch. We are combat ineffective. Say again, requesting immediate extract. Static. He tried again. Nothing. Beside him, Petty Officer Ramirez, young, scared, bleeding from a shoulder wound, looked over with wide eyes. They're not coming, are they? Cole didn't answer, because the truth was worse than silence. Then, through the chaos, through the rain and gunfire and fear, a single voice crackled over the radio, calm, clear, female. Viper 1, this is Overwatch Actual. I have your position. Hold fast. Help is inbound. Cole froze. Ramirez stared at the radio like it had grown teeth. Who the hell is that? Someone whispered. Cole didn't know. But for the first time in 20 minutes, he felt hope. The jungle didn't welcome her. It resisted, vines snagging at her boots, branches whipping across her face, mud sucking at every step like the earth itself wanted to hold her down. The rain was relentless. A vertical river that turned visibility into a gray blur and sound into white noise. Thunder rolled somewhere in the distance, low and constant, like artillery fire that never stopped. Mara moved through it all without hesitation. Her breathing stayed even. Her steps found purchase where others would have slipped. She didn't fight the terrain. She read it, adapted to it, became part of it. Every 20 meters she paused, listening beneath the rain, filtering out the storm to catch what mattered. Distant gunfire, the crack of branches, the low rumble of voices carried on the wind. The enemy was close, closer than the command tent thought. She adjusted her route, angling northeast using the slope of the ridgeline to stay below the enemy's probable sight lines. Her hands moved automatically, checking gear, verifying weight distribution, ensuring nothing rattled or reflected light. The pack on her back was compact but heavy, custom-built, containing tools most soldiers never saw and wouldn't recognize if they did. Inside the pack, wrapped in waterproof fabric, was a rifle. Not standard issue, not military catalog, something else entirely. But she didn't reach for it yet. Not yet. Back at the forward operations tent, Major Reeves stood frozen, staring at the rain. The tent had gone quiet after Mara left. No one knew what to say. The absurdity of it hung in the air like smoke. A lone woman, unarmed as far as anyone could tell, walking into a firefight to save a SEAL team. It was insane. It was suicide. And Reeves had let her go. Sir. He turned. Captain Liu was holding up a headset, face uncertain. Viper 1 is on the line. They're asking about the transmission. Reeves crossed the tent in 3 strides and grabbed the headset, pressing it against his ear. Viper 1, this is Overwatch Actual. Go ahead. Staff Sergeant Cole's voice came through, strained, rough, edged with pain. Overwatch, we received a transmission from an unknown call sign, female voice, said help was inbound. Can you confirm? Reeves hesitated. Around him, every officer in the tent was listening, waiting. He made a choice. Confirmed, Viper 1. Friendlies are moving to your position. A pause. Static. Then, how many, sir? Reeves closed his eyes. 1. Silence on the other end, long enough that Reeves thought the connection had died. Then Cole's voice came back, low and disbelieving. Did you say 1? Affirmative. Sir, we are surrounded by at least 30 hostiles. We have 4 wounded. We are almost out of ammo. And you're sending 1 person? That's correct? Another pause. Reeves could hear voices in the background, urgent, confused, angry. Then Cole again, quieter now. Sir, who the hell is she? Reeves stared out into the rain. I don't know, he said honestly. But she's all we've got. He pulled the headset off before Cole could respond and handed it back to Lou. The captain's face was pale, mouth tight. Sir, if this goes bad... It's already bad, Captain, Reeves cut him off. It can't get worse. But even as he said it, he wasn't sure he believed it. Mara crouched beneath a massive fern, rain streaming off the broad leaves above her head. She was 200 meters from Viper 1's position now, close enough to hear the gunfire clearly, sharp, rhythmic bursts from AK-pattern rifles, punctuated by the deeper cracks of NATO rounds returning fire. The SEALs were still fighting, still alive, but barely. She pulled a small handheld device from her pocket, a ruggedized GPS unit with topographic overlays. The screen glowed faintly in the gloom, showing her position as a blue dot and Viper 1 as a red circle. Between them, scattered across the ridgeline, were estimated enemy positions based on muzzle flash patterns and radio chatter intercepts. 30-plus hostiles, entrenched, organized. Mara studied the map for 10 seconds, committing every detail to memory, then powered it off and slipped it back into her pocket. She didn't need it anymore. The terrain was locked in her mind now. Elevation changes, cover points, firing lanes, wind patterns. She moved again, faster now, using the rain as cover. Her hands found holds instinctively, roots, rocks, branches, pulling her up the slope without wasted motion. She didn't think about the weight on her back or the mud caking her boots or the cold water running down her neck. She thought about angles, distance, wind, the mathematics of life and death. On the ridgeline, Staff Sergeant Cole pressed his cheek against the wet stone and tried to think. His leg throbbed. His vision swam. Around him, his team was falling apart. Not from cowardice, but from reality. They were the best trained soldiers on the planet, and it didn't matter. Superior numbers, superior position, and a storm that cut them off from everything that made them lethal. They were going to die here. Ramirez was next to him, breathing hard, face gray. Sarge, I don't hear the choppers. There are no choppers, Cole said flatly. Then what the hell is coming? Cole didn't answer, because he didn't have an answer. A bullet snapped past his head, so close he felt the displacement. He ducked instinctively, heart hammering. Across the small perimeter, Petty Officer Jenkins returned fire. 3 controlled bursts, then silence. Conserving ammo. We've got maybe 5 mags left between all of us, Jenkins called out, voice tight. After that, we're done. Cole keyed his radio again. Overwatch, Viper 1. We need that help now. We are nearly black on ammo. Repeat, nearly black. The response came immediately, but it wasn't Overwatch. It was her. That same calm female voice. Viper 1, Overwatch Actual. I am in position. Maintain current posture. Do not move. Do not return fire unless directly engaged. Acknowledge. Cole stared at the radio like it had spoken a foreign language. Do not return fire? Who the hell is this? He snapped. Identify yourself. Not relevant. Acknowledge the order, Staff Sergeant. Something in her tone, flat, absolute, unbothered, made him hesitate. It wasn't arrogance. It was certainty. The kind of voice that didn't waste time explaining because it didn't need to. Cole looked at Ramirez. The kid's eyes were wide, terrified, searching for reassurance Cole couldn't give. He made a decision. "All units, Viper 1 actual," Cole called out over the team net. "Cease fire. Hold position. Do not engage unless directly threatened." "What?" Jenkins hissed. "Sarge, they're going to rush us. I said hold." The team went silent, confused, desperate, trusting him because they had no other choice. Cole gripped his rifle tighter and whispered into the rain, "Whoever you are, you better be worth it." Mara lay flat on a narrow ledge 300 meters above the valley floor. The position was perfect. A natural shelf carved into the hillside, hidden by overgrowth, with a clear line of sight down into the enemy positions. The rain made it invisible from below. The wind up here was brutal, gusting, unpredictable, but she'd accounted for that. She always did. Her pack was open beside her. From it, she withdrew the rifle. It was a work of art. Custom-built Macmillan TAC 50, chambered in .50 BMG, modified beyond recognition. The stock was adjustable, the barrel free-floated and hand-lapped, the trigger tuned to a whisper-light pull. The optic was a Schmidt and Bender with ballistic drop compensation and wind drift correction, mounted on a rail system that most snipers would kill for. The suppressor was experimental, classified, technically, reducing the sonic signature without sacrificing velocity. Mara assembled it with practiced efficiency, each piece clicking into place like old friends reuniting. She didn't rush, didn't fumble. Muscle memory guided her hands while her mind calculated. Range: 600 meters to the nearest target, 800 to the farthest. Wind: gusting 15 to 20 knots, northwest. Humidity: near saturation. Barometric pressure: dropping. She adjusted the scope, dialing in corrections, compensating for variables most shooters didn't even know existed. Her breathing slowed, her heart rate dropped. The chaos of the storm faded into background noise. All that remained was the shot. She glassed the enemy positions through the scope. 32 hostiles. No, 34. 2 more moving up from the south. They were organized, disciplined, well-armed. They moved like soldiers, not militia. Probably former military, veterans of a dozen conflicts, hardened and confident. They thought they'd won. Mara's finger rested lightly on the trigger. She exhaled. The first shot was a whisper, a soft crack that the rain swallowed almost instantly. 300 meters away, an enemy machine gunner jerked once and collapsed, the heavy weapon tumbling off its mount. The fighters around him froze, confused. Had he slipped? Heart attack? They didn't know. Mara cycled the bolt, smooth, mechanical, ejected the brass into a catch bag so it wouldn't leave evidence. Chambered another round. Second target? A squad leader gesturing to his men, coordinating the assault. She adjusted for wind, squeezed. The man dropped mid-sentence. Now the enemy noticed. Shouts erupted. Men scattered, diving for cover. Panic rippled through their lines. Not because they were afraid, but because they didn't understand. Where was it coming from? No muzzle flash, no sound signature they could track, just sudden, inexplicable death. Mara didn't give them time to think. Third shot, fourth, fifth, each one carefully spaced. Each one different enough in timing that they couldn't predict the rhythm. One man dropped, reaching for his radio. Another fell sprinting between trees. A third collapsed while trying to organize a defensive perimeter. Precision, patience, inevitability. On the ridgeline, Cole watched in stunned silence. The enemy assault had just stopped. Confusion tore through the hostile lines. Men were shouting, pointing in different directions, firing blindly into the jungle. But they weren't advancing. They weren't pressing. They were dying. "What the hell?" Ramirez whispered. Cole didn't answer, because he was watching something he'd never seen before. An invisible hand reaching down into the valley and erasing threats one by one. Jenkins crawled over, eyes wide. "Sarge, is that her?" Cole nodded slowly. "Who is she?" "I don't know," but he was starting to suspect. Mara's earpiece crackled. "Overwatch actual, Viper 1. The enemy is breaking formation. They're pulling back." She didn't respond. Her focus remained absolute. 9th shot. A man trying to rally the others. 10th. An officer screaming orders. 11th. A fighter setting up a mortar. The enemy was fracturing now. Fear had taken root. They couldn't see her, couldn't hear her, couldn't fight what they didn't understand. Some began to retreat. Mara let them go. She wasn't here to kill everyone. Just enough. In the operations tent, Reeves stood over the radio, listening in disbelief. Cole's voice came through, breathless, shaken. Overwatch. The enemy is in full retreat. Repeat. Hostiles are withdrawing. We are no longer under fire. Reeves grabbed the handset. Viper 1, can you confirm? The enemy is withdrawing? Confirmed, sir. I don't know how, but they're running. Around the tent, officers stared at each other. Liu broke the silence. One person, one shooter. Reeves felt something cold settle in his chest. Not fear, awe. Tick-tock. Mara chambered the final round. 25 down, 9 retreating. Acceptable. She glassed the ridgeline one last time, confirming Viper 1's status. They were moving now, slowly, carefully, tending to their wounded. Safe. She collapsed the bipod, disassembled the rifle, and packed it away. Then she stood, shouldered her pack, and disappeared into the rain. She moved down the hillside like water finding the path of least resistance. No wasted motion, no sound. The rain continued its assault, turning the slope into a treacherous maze of mud and exposed roots, but Mara's boots found purchase where others would have slid. Her breathing remained controlled, her pulse steady. The rifle was packed away, invisible within the contours of her gear. To anyone watching, if anyone could have seen her through the storm, she would have looked like nothing more than a shadow passing through the trees. But no one was watching. The enemy had scattered. Viper 1 was holding position, and the jungle had swallowed her whole. She was 200 meters from the SEAL team's location when her earpiece crackled to life. Overwatch actual, Viper 1. We have eyes on multiple wounded, requesting immediate medical support. Mara keyed her radio, voice calm. Viper 1, Overwatch actual. I'm inbound to your position. ETA 3 minutes. Prepare to receive friendly. A pause. Then Cole's voice, edged with confusion and something close to suspicion. Overwatch, who are you? She didn't answer. 3 minutes. Staff Sergeant Marcus Cole crouched behind the boulder, rifle trained on the tree line, and tried to make sense of what had just happened. 34 enemy fighters, hardened, organized, well-armed, had surrounded his team with overwhelming force and superior positioning. They'd been seconds away from overrunning the perimeter, from turning this into a massacre. And then, they'd just started dying. No air support, no artillery, no visible shooter, just bodies dropping one after another, while confusion and terror tore through enemy ranks like a plague. Now the hostiles were gone, fled into the jungle, leaving behind weapons, gear, and the kind of silence that follows violence. Cole's team was alive. Barely. Ramirez sat slumped against a tree, face pale, hand pressed against the shoulder wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. Jenkins was checking the other wounded. 3 more, all stable, but fading fast. Petty Officer Diaz had a through-and-through in his calf. Corpsman Lewis had taken shrapnel across his ribs. And Lieutenant Garza, the team leader, was unconscious, a nasty gash across his temple from debris during the initial ambush. They were a wreck, and now some unknown operator was walking toward them through a hostile jungle. Alone. Cole didn't like unknowns. Positions, he called out, voice hard. Weapons ready. Friendly inbound, but we verify before we trust. Jenkins looked up from bandaging Diaz's leg. Sarge, she saved our asses. Maybe, Cole said. Or maybe whoever she works for just wanted us alive long enough to get intel. You think she's hostile? I think I don't know who the hell she is. Ramirez groaned, shifting against the tree. Whoever she is, she shoots like a damn ghost. Cole couldn't argue with that. He'd been in combat for 8 years. He'd worked with the best shooters the Navy had. Scout snipers, Delta marksmen, CIA paramilitaries. He'd seen what elite precision looked like. This was something else. 25 confirmed kills in under 10 minutes. No misses. No wasted rounds. Every shot a surgical elimination of a threat, executed from a position no one had detected. That wasn't just skill. That was art. The rain began to ease, shifting from a violent downpour to a steady drizzle. Visibility improved slightly. Cole glassed the tree line with his rifle scope, searching for movement. Nothing. Then, a figure emerged from the jungle. Small, compact, moving with the kind of fluid economy that spoke of someone who'd spent years learning how to be invisible. Cole's finger tightened on the trigger. The figure raised both hands, not in surrender, but in a gesture of non-threat. Slow, deliberate. The kind of movement that said, I know you're watching, and I'm giving you time to decide. Cole didn't lower his weapon. Identify yourself, he barked. The figure kept walking, steady, unbothered. 30 meters, 20, 10. Close enough now that Cole could see details through the rain and fading light. Female. Small frame, dark hair plastered to her skull. Civilian gear. No visible weapons. She stopped 5 meters away and lowered her hands. Mara Vance, she said. Voice calm, even. Like she was introducing herself at a briefing instead of a firefight aftermath. I'm the one who called in. Cole stared. Up close, she looked even less like a soldier. No body armor, no tactical vest, just a weatherproof jacket, cargo pants, and a pack that was too small to hold the kind of hardware that had just dismantled an enemy force. Jenkins rose slowly, rifle half raised, eyes wide. Your Overwatch actual? Mara nodded. Ramirez let out a breathless laugh. You're kidding. She ignored him, eyes moving across the perimeter, assessing, cataloging, processing. Her gaze lingered on each wounded man for a fraction of a second before moving on. No wasted attention, just cold clinical evaluation. 4 wounded, she said. 1 unconscious, 2 critical if we don't move fast. Cole didn't lower his weapon. How many hostiles did you put down? 25. Confirmed? Yes. How? Does it matter? Yeah, Cole said flatly. It does. Mara's eyes shifted to him, dark, unreadable. You were surrounded, outnumbered, out of time. I eliminated the threats. You're alive. That's what matters. Who do you work for? Right now, you. Cole felt his jaw tighten. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. Silence stretched between them, tense, wary. Around the perimeter, the other SEALs watched, weapons still half raised, caught between gratitude and suspicion. Jenkins broke the standoff. Sarge, Diaz is losing blood fast. We need to move. Mara didn't wait for Cole's permission. She stepped past him, moving toward the wounded with the kind of quiet authority that made objections evaporate. She knelt beside Diaz, hands already moving, checking the tourniquet, assessing circulation, adjusting pressure. This is too tight, she said, loosening it slightly. You'll lose the leg if you leave it like this. Diaz stared at her, face gray. Who are you? She didn't answer, just finished the adjustment and moved to Ramirez. The young SEAL flinched as she peeled back the makeshift bandage on his shoulder. Blood welled up, dark and steady. Through and through, she said. Clean. You'll live. Gee, thanks, Ramirez muttered. Mara pulled a small med kit from her pack, compact, efficient, containing supplies that weren't standard issue. She worked quickly, packing the wound, applying clotting agent, rewrapping it with pressure. Cole watched, torn between demanding answers and accepting help they desperately needed. Corman Lewis, Mara called out, not looking up. Lewis limped over, ribs taped, face drawn. Yeah? Check Lieutenant Garza's pupils. Make sure the head wound isn't masking a concussion or worse. Lewis blinked. I already... Do it again. Something in her tone made him move. Cole stepped closer. Vance? She glanced up. We need to know who you are. You need to get your team off this ridge before the enemy regroups, she said evenly. That's what you need. They're not regrouping. You broke them. I scattered them. There's a difference. She finished with Ramirez and stood, eyes scanning the tree line. They'll pull back, reassess, and come back with more. We have maybe 20 minutes before this position becomes untenable again. Jenkins cursed under his breath. She's right, Sarge. We're sitting ducks up here. Cole knew it, hated it, but knew it. He looked at Mara. Can you get us out? Yes. How? There's an old logging trail half a click west, overgrown but passable. It leads down to the valley floor where extraction can reach us. How do you know that? I scouted it on the way in. Cole felt something shift in his gut. You scouted a route while you were setting up to engage 30-plus hostiles? Multitasking, she said simply. Ramirez laughed, sharp, half delirious. I like her. Cole didn't share the sentiment. We move in 2 columns. Wounded in the center, I take point. Jenkins, rear security. Negative, Mara said. Every head turned. Cole's eyes narrowed. Excuse me? You're wounded. Your leg is compromised. You'll slow us down and make noise. I'll take point. Like hell. Staff sergeant. Her voice didn't rise, didn't sharpen, just stopped him cold. I've been moving through this jungle undetected for the last hour. I know the terrain. I know where the enemy is, and I know how to get us out alive. You don't. Cole felt heat rise in his chest. I've been running ops in hostile territory since before you. Since before I what? Mara cut him off, eyes flat. Since before I saved your team? Since before I put down 25 enemy fighters while you were pinned behind a rock? Silence. Brutal. Absolute. Jenkins cleared his throat. Sarge, she's got a point. Cole wanted to argue, wanted to pull rank, assert control, remind everyone that he was the team leader and she was a goddamn civilian contractor who had no business giving orders. But he couldn't, because she was right. He exhaled hard, jaw tight. Fine, you take point, but I'm right behind you, and if this goes sideways, it won't. She said it with such certainty that Cole almost believed her. Almost. Arpaz said. They moved in silence. Mara led, her steps deliberate and soundless despite the mud and debris. Behind her came Cole, limping but steady, rifle up. Then the wounded, supported by the able-bodied. Jenkins brought up the rear, constantly glancing over his shoulder, expecting contact at any second. The jungle pressed in around them, dense, wet, alive with the sound of dripping water and distant animal calls. The rain had stopped entirely now, leaving behind a thick humidity that made breathing feel like work. Mara didn't slow. She moved like she had a map burned into her brain, adjusting course around obstacles before they became visible, choosing paths that minimized noise, avoiding areas where ambushes could be set. It wasn't luck. It was knowledge, the kind that came from experience most operators never survived long enough to gain. Cole watched her, mind churning. Who the hell was she? Not military, at least not active. Her movements were too fluid, too individualized. Military training created patterns, rhythms, standardized responses. Mara moved like someone who'd been taught the rules and then spent years breaking them to stay alive. Contractor? Maybe. But contractors didn't operate alone, didn't engage entire enemy forces solo, didn't move through hostile territory like they owned it. CIA? Possible. But even agency paramilitaries worked in teams, and they sure as hell didn't walk into forward operating bases unannounced and volunteer for suicide missions. So what did that leave? Cole didn't know, and that scared him more than the ambush had. They were halfway to the logging trail when Mara stopped. Her hand came up, a closed fist. Universal signal. Halt. The team froze. Cole moved up beside her, voice barely a whisper. What is it? She didn't answer immediately, just stood there, head tilted slightly, listening to something he couldn't hear. Then she pointed. 50 meters ahead, partially hidden by undergrowth, Cole saw movement. 3 figures, armed, moving perpendicular to their position. Enemy patrol, searching. Cole's heart rate spiked. If the patrol spotted them, the firefight would bring every hostile in the valley down on their heads, and they didn't have the ammo or manpower to survive that. He looked at Mara. We need to go around. No time, she whispered. They'll cross our trail, see the blood, track us. Then we engage. Too loud. Gunfire will draw more. Then what? Mara's hand moved to her belt, slowly, carefully. She drew a knife. Not a standard issue blade. Something custom, matte black, 7 inches, single-edged, designed for one purpose. Cole's eyes widened. You can't be serious. She didn't respond, just moved. 1 second she was beside him. The next, She was gone. But the enemy fighters never heard her coming. The first man was checking a blood trail on the ground when Mara materialized behind him, her left hand clamped over his mouth, yanking his head back. The knife came around in a tight arc, finding the gap between jaw and collarbone. The blade sank deep, severed the carotid, and withdrew in less than 2 seconds. The man went down without a sound. The second fighter turned at the noise, the soft thump of a body hitting wet earth. He saw her, opened his mouth to shout. Mara closed the distance in 3 silent strides. Her hand intercepted his rifle before he could bring it up, redirecting the barrel downward. The knife came up under his ribs, angled toward the heart. A quick twist, a controlled collapse. The third man spun, weapon rising, eyes wide. Mara was already moving. She dropped low inside his firing line, one hand deflecting the rifle while the other drove the blade into his inner thigh, femoral artery. He gasped, staggered, and she followed him down, hand still clamped over his mouth, waiting until the light left his eyes. 15 seconds. 3 men. 0 noise. She stood, wiped the blade on the third man's jacket, and returned to the team. Cole stared at her. Jenkins stared at her. Ramirez whispered, "Holy shit!" Mara's expression didn't change. "Trail's clear. Move!" No one spoke for the next 10 minutes. They just walked, following the woman who'd just killed 3 armed men with a knife and less emotion than most people showed swatting a fly. Cole's mind was racing. Close quarters combat like that required more than training. It required instinct, muscle memory, the kind of psychological wiring that let you kill without hesitation, without thought, without the freeze response that got most people killed. Special forces got close. Delta came closer. But what he'd just seen? That was something else. The logging trail appeared exactly where Mara said it would, a narrow path cutting through the jungle, overgrown but navigable. She led them onto it, pace increasing slightly now that the terrain was more forgiving. "How much farther?" Cole asked. "Half a click. Valley floor opens up. Extraction can land there." "You already called it in?" "Before I left the tent." Cole blinked. "You called for extraction before you even engaged?" "Yes." "How did you know we'd make it?" She glanced back at him. "I didn't." The honesty of it was almost worse than arrogance would have been. They reached the valley floor as twilight began to settle. The rain had stopped completely now, leaving behind a sky streaked with orange and purple. The air was cooler here, the jungle less dense. Ahead, a natural clearing stretched out, maybe 60 meters across, ringed by trees, flat enough for a helicopter. Mara stopped at the edge, keying her radio. "Overwatch. Viper 1 is at extraction point. Request immediate pickup. 4 wounded, 1 critical." The response came back instantly, Major Reeves' voice, tight with relief. "Viper 1, Overwatch. Birds are wheels up. ETA 12 minutes. Hold position." "Copy." Cole moved the team into a defensive perimeter, wounded in the center, able-bodied facing outward. Lewis was checking Lieutenant Garza again, face grim. "He's stable," the corpsman said quietly, "but he needs real medical attention. Soon." 12 minutes, Cole said. Ramirez slumped against a tree, breathing hard. "Longest 12 minutes of my life." But Jenkins was scanning the tree line, rifle up. "We're exposed here. If they come back, they won't," Mara said. "How do you know?" She didn't answer, because she was listening. The attack came from the south. No warning, no noise, just muzzle flashes erupting from the tree line, a desperate, disorganized assault from the remnants of the enemy force. 8 fighters, maybe 9, breaking from cover and sprinting toward the clearing, firing on full auto. "Contact south!" Jenkins roared, returning fire. The SEALs opened up, controlled bursts, dropping 2 attackers immediately. But the others kept coming, closing the distance, screaming, wild-eyed. Cole fired, dropped another, felt his rifle click empty. "Reloading!" he shouted. Mara moved. She'd been standing near the edge of the clearing, seemingly unarmed, just watching. Now her hand went to her pack. She pulled a pistol, compact, suppressed, unfamiliar design, and she started shooting. 3 rounds, 3 headshots, 3 bodies dropping mid-sprint. 4 more rounds, 4 more kills. The final attacker made it within 10 meters before Mara's pistol cracked one last time and he collapsed, sliding through the mud, dead before he stopped moving. Silence. Cole stared. 8 hostiles, eliminated in under 6 seconds, with a pistol, at combat distances that most shooters couldn't reliably hit with a rifle. Mara ejected the magazine, checked it, reloaded, and holstered the weapon. Then she turned to Cole, expression unchanged. "Are your men all right?" He couldn't speak. Jenkins broke the silence, voice shaking. What the hell are you?" Mara looked at him. "Tired." And for the first time, Cole saw it. Beneath the calm, beneath the precision, beneath the cold, relentless efficiency. Exhaustion. Not physical, something deeper. The kind of weariness that came from carrying weight no one else could see. Before anyone could respond, the sound of rotors cut through the air. Extraction had arrived. The Black Hawk descended into the clearing, rotor wash whipping the trees into a frenzy. Medics jumped out before the skids even touched down, rushing toward the wounded. Within seconds, Garza was on a stretcher, being loaded into the bird. Ramirez, Diaz, and Lewis followed, supported by the corpsmen. Cole supervised the loading, limping but functional, making sure his team was secure. When he turned back, Mara was gone. He scanned the clearing. "Vance!" Jenkins pointed. "There." She was walking toward the tree line, pack on her shoulders, moving away from the helicopter. Cole jogged after her, ignoring the pain in his leg. "Where the hell are you going?" She stopped, turned. "My job's done." "The hell it is. You're coming back with us." "No." "Vance, you just saved 12 lives. Command is going to want to debrief you, award you, hell, probably recruit you." "I don't want any of that." "Then what do you want?" She looked at him, and for a moment, just a moment, the mask slipped. He saw the truth. She didn't want recognition. She didn't want glory. She just wanted to disappear. "Take care of your men, Staff Sergeant," she said quietly. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled something out. A small metal coin, worn smooth, inscribed with symbols Cole recognized instantly. A trident, a skull, a number. His breath caught. She placed it in his hand. "Give that to Lieutenant Garza. When he wakes up, he'll understand." "Understand what?" "That some debts never expire." Before Cole could respond, she turned and walked into the jungle. He stood there, coin in hand, watching her disappear into the shadows. Behind him, Jenkins called out, "Sarge, we're loaded. We gotta go." Cole looked down at the coin, then back at the tree line. Empty. He limped back to the helicopter, climbed in, and as the bird lifted off, he stared out at the jungle below. Somewhere down there, a woman who'd just killed 33 enemy fighters was walking alone through hostile territory, and no one would ever know her name. The Black Hawk banked hard over the valley, rotors thundering, carrying the wounded toward safety. Inside the bird, medics worked frantically on Lieutenant Garza, checking vitals, securing IV lines, shouting updates over the noise. Ramirez sat strapped against the bulkhead, head back, eyes closed, pale but breathing. Diaz and Lewis were stable, bandaged, conscious enough to watch the jungle disappear beneath them. Staff Sergeant Marcus Cole sat near the open door, rifle across his lap, staring down at the coin in his hand. The metal was worn smooth from years of handling, edges softened, but the symbols were still visible. A trident, the seal emblem. A skull, death's signature. And below them, a number. 037. Cole's thumb traced the engraving, mind racing. He knew what this was. Every operator in the special operations community knew the stories, whispered in bars, passed around in late-night conversations, never officially confirmed but never fully denied. Legacy coins. Tokens given to a select few. People who'd operated in the shadows so deep that their names didn't exist in any database, their missions scrubbed from every record, their existence a carefully guarded secret. Operators who'd done things the government could never acknowledge. And number 037? Cole had heard that one before. Years ago, during his first deployment, an old SEAL Master Chief had told him a story over whiskey. About a sniper, female, impossibly skilled, recruited young from some black site program no one could name. She'd run solo ops in places where even Delta wouldn't go. Precision eliminations. High-value targets. Situations where sending a team was impossible, but doing nothing was unacceptable. The Master Chief had called her a ghost, said she disappeared after a mission went sideways, officially listed as KIA. Unofficially, no one knew, but the number, 037, that had stayed in the stories. Cole looked up, staring out at the darkening sky. Mara Vance. If that was even her real name. He closed his fist around the coin and made a decision. The forward operating base was chaos when they landed. Floodlights cut through the twilight, illuminating the landing zone. Medical teams swarmed the helicopter before the skids touched down, pulling stretchers, barking orders, moving with controlled urgency. Garza was offloaded first, rushed toward the field hospital. The other wounded followed. Cole climbed out, boots hitting the ground, leg throbbing but functional. Major Reeves was already striding toward him, face tight with a mix of relief and barely contained questions. "Cole," Reeves said, gripping his shoulder. "You good?" "I'll live, sir." "The rest of your team?" "4 wounded, 3 stable. Garza's critical but breathing. We got lucky." Reeves' jaw tightened. "Lucky?" "Right." Cole met his eyes. "Where is she?" "Who?" "Vance. Mara Vance, the contractor. Where is she?" Reeves' expression shifted, something between confusion and frustration. "She didn't come back with you?" "She walked off into the jungle. Said her job was done." "She what?" "You heard me, sir." Reeves stared at him, processing. Then he turned to Captain Liu, who was hovering nearby with a tablet. "Liu, get eyes on Vance, satellite, drone, whatever we've got. I want her located now." Liu's fingers flew over the screen, face already showing doubt. "Sir, the weather's still degrading imaging, and if she doesn't want to be found, I don't care. Find her." "Yes, sir." Reeves turned back to Cole. "What the hell happened out there?" Cole hesitated, weighing his words. Around them, personnel moved with purpose, loading wounded, securing gear, conducting post-mission procedures. But everyone was listening, waiting. "She saved us," Cole said finally. 30+ hostiles. She took them out. Alone. Silence rippled outward. Lieutenant Oakes stepped forward, the same officer who'd laughed when Mara volunteered. His face was pale now, skeptical but shaken. "How?" "Precision fire. Long range. I've never seen anything like it." "She had support? A team?" "No, just her." Oakes shook his head. "That's impossible. One shooter can't—" "She did." Cole's voice was flat, hard. "I watched the enemy fall apart, watched them run. She broke an entire assault force without them ever seeing her." "What kind of weapon was she using?" "I don't know. Never saw it." "Then how—" "Because she's not just a contractor." Cole pulled the coin from his pocket and held it up. "She's something else." Reeves took the coin, studied it, and his expression changed, recognition, understanding, and something close to disbelief. "Where did you get this?" Reeves asked quietly. "She gave it to me. Said to give it to Garza when he wakes up." "Why Garza?" "She said he'd understand. Said some debts never expire." Reeves stared at the coin for a long moment. Then he looked up at Cole, voice low. "Did she say anything else?" "Just that she was tired." The weight of that statement settled over them. Reeves handed the coin back. "Get checked out by medical, then meet me in my office. 1 hour." "Sir." 1 hour, Staff Sergeant. That's an order." Cole nodded, pocketed the coin, and limped toward the medical tent. The field hospital smelled like antiseptic and blood. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in harsh white. Cole sat on an exam table while a Navy corpsman, young, efficient, too tired to make small talk, cleaned and rebandaged the gunshot wound in his thigh. "You're lucky," the corpsman said, fingers working methodically. "Bullet went clean through. Missed the bone, missed the major vessels. You'll need antibiotics and rest, but you'll walk fine." "Great," Cole muttered. "Try to stay off it for a few days." "Not likely." The corpsman shrugged, finished the bandaging, and moved on to the next patient. Cole stood, tested his weight, felt the pain flare but ignored it. He'd had worse. Across the tent, separated by a canvas partition, he could hear voices, doctors working on Garza. The tone was urgent but controlled. Good sign. Meant he was stable enough to operate on. Cole moved toward the partition, paused. A doctor emerged, stripping off bloodied gloves. She was in her 40s, lean, with sharp eyes, and the kind of exhaustion that came from too many battlefield surgeries. "He gonna make it?" Cole asked. She looked at him, assessing. "You're with Viper 1? "Yeah." "He's stable. Head wound wasn't as bad as it looked. Concussion, lacerations, but no skull fracture. He'll wake up." Relief flooded through Cole. "When?" "Few hours, maybe. We've got him sedated for now." Cole nodded, then pulled out the coin. "When he wakes up, give him this. Tell him it's from Overwatch Actual." The doctor took the coin, frowning. "What is it?" "Something he'll recognize." She studied it for a moment, then slipped it into her pocket. "I'll make sure he gets it." "Thanks." Cole turned to leave, then stopped. "Doc, you ever hear of someone called 037? Her expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Recognition, maybe fear. "Why do you ask?" "Because I think I just met her." The doctor's face went carefully neutral. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Right." Cole walked out. Major Reeves' office was a converted shipping container, cramped, Spartan, filled with maps and classified documents. Cole entered to find Reeves sitting behind a makeshift desk, staring at a laptop screen. Captain Liu stood nearby, tablet in hand, expression grim. Reeves looked up. "Close the door." Cole did. "Sit." He sat. Reeves leaned back, rubbing his face. "We can't find her." Not surprising. Liu ran satellite imaging, thermal scans, drone patterns. Nothing. It's like she evaporated. "That's what she does, sir." Reeves studied him. "You seem to know something about her." Cole hesitated, then decided there was no point hiding it. "I've heard stories, old stories, about operators who worked outside the normal chain of command, Black Book personnel, people who didn't officially exist." "And you think Vance is one of them?" "I think the woman who saved us tonight has killed a lot more than 30 people." Liu shifted uncomfortably. "Staff Sergeant, that's a serious accusation." "It's not an accusation. It's a fact." Cole pulled the coin out again, set it on the desk. "This is a legacy token, number 037. "You know what that means, sir?" Reeves stared at the coin but didn't touch it. "It means she's untouchable," Cole continued. "It means she's done things for this country that we'll never read about in any after-action report. It means she's earned the right to walk away whenever she wants." "Or," Liu said carefully, "it means she's compromised, rogue, working for someone else now." Cole's head snapped toward him. "She saved 12 SEALs, alone, in a storm, against overwhelming odds. Does that sound compromised to you?" "It sounds convenient." "Convenient?" "She shows up unannounced, operates without oversight, refuses debrief, disappears without explanation." Liu's voice was calm but firm. "That's not how professionals work. That's how liabilities work." Cole stood, anger flaring. "She's not a liability. She's the only reason my team isn't in body bags right now." "Sit down, Staff Sergeant," Reeves said quietly. Cole sat, jaw tight. Reeves looked at Liu. "Give us the room." Liu hesitated, then nodded and left. Once the door closed, Reeves leaned forward. "I believe you, Cole. I believe she saved your team, but Liu's not wrong to be suspicious." "Sir, let me finish." Reeves's voice was firm but not unkind. "I've been doing this for 22 years. I've seen operators come and go. I've seen heroes turn into nightmares. And I've learned that the ones who operate alone, who refuse oversight, who disappear without explanation, they're either the best we've got or the most dangerous." "Which one is she?" "I don't know. That's the problem." Cole exhaled hard. "What do you want me to do? Find out who she really is?" "How?" Reeves tapped the coin on his desk. "Start with Garza. If she gave this to him specifically, there's a reason." Lieutenant Garza woke up 6 hours later. Cole was there when it happened, sitting in a folding chair beside the hospital bed, exhausted but unable to sleep. The sun was rising outside, pale light filtering through the tent canvas. Garza's eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then sharpening. He tried to sit up, groaned, and fell back. "Easy," Cole said, standing. "You took a hit to the head. You're going to feel like shit for a while." Garza's voice was hoarse. "The team. Everyone made it. 4 wounded, including you, but alive." Relief washed over Garza's face. "How?" "That's what I need to talk to you about." Cole pulled out the coin and placed it on the bed beside Garza's hand. The lieutenant stared at it. His face went pale. "Where did you get this?" Garza whispered. "A woman gave it to me. Said to give it to you when you woke up. Said you'd understand." Garza's hand trembled as he picked up the coin, turning it over, tracing the number with his thumb. 037, he breathed. "You know her." It wasn't a question. Garza closed his eyes. "Yeah, I know her." "Who is she?" "Someone I owe my life to." "That's not an answer, Lieutenant." Garza opened his eyes, met Cole's gaze. "It's the only answer I can give." "Sir, with respect, she just saved our entire team. Command is asking questions. They want to know who she is, where she came from, whether she's a threat. I need more than I owe her." Garza was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, voice quiet. 6 years ago, I was part of a joint task force in Yemen, classified op. We got ambushed. Entire team wiped out except me. I was captured, held for 3 days, tortured. Cole said nothing. "I was ready to die," Garza continued. "Hell, I wanted to. And then she showed up, alone, in the middle of an enemy compound, killed 8 guards without firing a shot, got me out." "How did she know where you were?" "I don't know. I never asked. All I know is that when I woke up in a safe house 2 days later, this coin was on the table next to me." He held it up. "She left it. No note, no explanation, just this." "And you never saw her again?" "Not until today, apparently." Cole processed that. "What's her real name?" "I don't know." "You're telling me she saved your life and you don't even know her name?" "That's exactly what I'm telling you." "Did she work for JSOC, CIA? Who was she with?" Garza shook his head. "Above my pay grade, above yours too." "Then how do you know she's legitimate?" "Because if she wasn't, I'd be dead. And so would you." Cole felt the weight of that truth settle over him. Garza handed the coin back. "Keep it safe. She gave it to you for a reason." "What reason?" "To remind you that not everyone who saves your life needs recognition. Some people just do the job." Cole left the hospital tent as the base came to life around him. Soldiers moved with purpose, running drills, loading equipment, preparing for the next operation. The war didn't stop just because 12 men had survived. He walked across the compound, coin in his pocket, mind churning. Major Reeves was waiting outside his office, coffee in hand, eyes bloodshot. "Well?" Reeves asked. "Garza confirmed she's legitimate, said she saved his life 6 years ago. Same M.O., solo op, no support, vanished afterward." "Did he tell you her real name?" "He doesn't know it." Reeves cursed under his breath. "Of course he doesn't." "Sir, with respect, does it matter?" Reeves looked at him sharply. "What?" "Does it matter who she is? We know what she did. We know she's on our side. Isn't that enough?" "No, Cole, it's not. Because tomorrow she could be working for someone else. Or against us. We have no control, no oversight, no accountability." "Maybe that's the point. What are you talking about?" Cole chose his words carefully. "People like her, they don't work for anyone. They work for the mission, and when the mission's done, they disappear. Because if they stuck around, they'd become liabilities, targets, political chess pieces." "You're defending her." "I'm explaining her." Reeves was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed, exhaustion seeping through. "Command wants a full report. They're sending investigators. They'll want to interview your team, review comms, reconstruct the entire engagement. Let them. They'll want to find her." "They won't." "How can you be so sure?" Cole pulled out the coin one last time, held it up. "Because she's been doing this longer than any of us. And if she doesn't want to be found, she won't be." Reeves stared at the coin, then nodded slowly. Keep it. If she ever comes back, maybe it'll mean something. She won't come back, sir. How do you know? Because her job's done. 3 days later, the investigation concluded. No evidence of Mara Vance, no fingerprints, no DNA, no digital footprint. The name itself turned out to be an alias, one of dozens she'd used over the years, each tied to a different contract, a different mission, a different ghost. JSOC interviewed the team. Every man told the same story. An unknown operator had engaged and eliminated hostile forces with precision beyond anything they'd witnessed, but none of them could provide actionable intelligence on who she was or where she'd gone. The official report listed her as unknown friendly contractor, investigation ongoing. The unofficial consensus? She didn't exist, and that was probably for the best. Gab. Cole stood on the edge of the base, staring out at the jungle. Viper 1 had been rotated stateside for recovery. Garza would need a month before he could return to duty. Ramirez, Diaz, and Lewis were healing. The rest of the team was already prepping for the next op. Life moved on. But Cole couldn't stop thinking about her. About the way she'd moved through the jungle like she owned it. The way she'd killed without hesitation, but without cruelty. The way she'd looked at him, not with pride or arrogance, just tired certainty. He pulled out the coin, felt its weight. 0.37. Whoever she was, whatever she'd done, she'd saved 12 lives and asked for nothing in return. No recognition, no glory, just the quiet knowledge that she'd done what needed to be done. Cole closed his fist around the coin and made a silent promise. If he ever met her again, if she ever needed help, he'd return the favor. No questions asked. But somewhere in the jungle, 50 kilometers from the base, Mara Vance sat beneath a canopy of trees. Her pack was beside her, her rifle disassembled and cleaned, her knife sharpened and sheathed. She was alone. Always alone. But that was the deal. The price she'd paid years ago when she'd made the choice to step into the shadows and never come back. Some people saved the world in daylight, with medals and parades and history books. Others did it in darkness, with nothing but the knowledge that it mattered. Mara preferred the dark. It was quieter. She stood, shouldered her pack, and started walking. Somewhere ahead, another mission was waiting. Another impossible situation. Another group of people who needed help they'd never know came from her. And she'd be there, silent, invisible, unstoppable. The jungle swallowed distance like it swallowed sound. Mara moved through it with the same quiet efficiency she'd carried for years. Boots finding purchase on wet earth, hands parting vines without breaking them, breath controlled and even. The canopy overhead filtered the morning light into a green twilight, and somewhere in the distance, birds called warnings to each other about the predator passing through their territory. She didn't mind being the predator. It was easier than being prey. 50 kilometers separated her from the forward operating base now, far enough that thermal imaging couldn't track her, far enough that drones would have moved on to other targets, far enough that she could breathe without wondering if someone was watching. But not far enough to outrun memory. She stopped beside a stream, knelt, and refilled her canteen. The water was cold and clear, tasting faintly of minerals and earth. She drank deeply, letting the chill settle in her chest, then sat back against a tree and allowed herself a moment of stillness. Around her the jungle lived, insects humming, leaves rustling, the distant crack of branches as some animal moved through the undergrowth. Life continuing, indifferent to the violence she'd left behind. 33 dead, 12 saved. The math was simple, but the weight never got lighter. Mara closed her eyes and let the exhaustion wash over her. Not the physical kind that she could handle. This was deeper. The kind that came from years of carrying secrets, operating alone, knowing that every mission brought her closer to the moment when luck ran out, or reflexes slowed, or someone finally figured out who she really was. She'd been running for 6 years. 6 years since the mission in Syria that had gone sideways. 6 years since her team had been compromised, eliminated, and she'd been left as the sole survivor with a choice: disappear or become a liability the government would eliminate. She'd chosen to disappear, and she'd been a ghost ever since. Mara opened her eyes, staring up through the canopy at the fragments of sky visible between leaves. She wondered sometimes if it was worth it. The loneliness, the isolation, the endless cycle of violence followed by silence. Then she thought about the faces she'd saved, the operators who'd gone home to families, the missions that had succeeded because she'd been there when no one else could be, and she knew the answer. It was worth it. It had to be. Because if it wasn't, if all of this had been for nothing, then she didn't know who she was anymore. Back at the base, Major Reeves sat in his office and stared at a classified email. The subject line was simple. Unknown contractor. Investigation closed. He opened it. The message was short, clinical, final. Investigation into the unidentified contractor operating in Carson Valley has been concluded. Subject could not be located or identified through available intelligence channels. No actionable intelligence recovered. No threat assessment warranted. Case closed. Do not pursue further. Reeves read it twice. Then he deleted it. Captain Liu knocked on the doorframe, tablet in hand. Sir, JSOC just sent down orders. We're being reassigned to another AO. Wheels up in 72 hours. Acknowledged. Liu hesitated. Sir, about the contractor? Case closed, Captain. But I said case closed. Reeves's tone left no room for argument. Liu nodded stiffly and left. Reeves leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. The coin, number 037, sat on his desk where Cole had left it. He picked it up, turned it over in his fingers. He'd made calls, quiet calls, to people who owed him favors, to contacts in intelligence communities who dealt in information that never made it into official reports. And every single one of them had given him the same answer. Let it go. Some things, they said, were better left unknown. Some people were better left unfound. Reeves set the coin down and stood. He had a war to fight, a team to lead, missions that required his full attention. But part of him, a small, stubborn part, hoped that wherever Mara Vance was, she was safe, and that if she ever needed help, someone would be there for her the way she'd been there for Viper 1. Three weeks later, Staff Sergeant Marcus Cole stood in a military hospital in Germany. The room was quiet, sterile, filled with the soft beep of monitors. Lieutenant Garza sat in a chair by the window, head still bandaged, but eyes clear and alert. He'd been medically evacuated for further treatment and recovery. The concussion had been worse than initially assessed, and the doctors wanted him under observation. Cole had flown in on his way back to the States. Officially, it was a courtesy visit. Unofficially, he had questions that wouldn't go away. You look like hell, Garza said, gesturing to the empty chair beside him. Cole sat. You should see the other guy. I did. He's dead. They both smiled, but it didn't reach their eyes. Silence settled between them, the comfortable kind shared by men who'd seen combat together. Finally, Garza spoke. You're here about her. Cole nodded. I told you everything I know. I know, but I keep thinking, there has to be more. Why? Because no one just appears out of nowhere, saves a dozen lives, and vanishes without a trace. People don't work like that. She does. Cole exhaled hard. Who is she, Lieutenant? Really? Garza was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into the drawer beside his bed and pulled out the coin, 037. He'd kept it, carried it through medevac and hospital transfers. You want the truth? Garza said quietly. Yeah. I don't know her name. I don't know where she came from, but I know what she is. Which is? A weapon. The word hung in the air like smoke. Cole frowned. What does that mean? It means she was made for this, trained from the ground up to do things most people can't even imagine. She's not a soldier. She's not an operator. She's something else, something the government built and then lost control of. Lost control? Garza nodded. I did some digging after she saved me, called in favors, talked to people who shouldn't have talked. And I found fragments, pieces of a program that officially doesn't exist. Black Book recruitment. Young candidates with specific psychological profiles, training that broke them down and rebuilt them into precision instruments. Jesus Christ. Most of them washed out, couldn't handle it. A few went insane, but a handful, Garza tapped the coin. A handful became exactly what they were designed to be. And she's one of them. She's the best of them. Cole felt something cold settle in his gut. If she's that valuable, why let her go? Why not bring her back in? Because you can't control someone like her. You can only point her at a problem and hope she solves it. And the moment she decides the problem is you, Garza shrugged. Better to let her disappear. That's insane. Maybe, but it's also smart. Cole stared at the coin in Garza's hand. Why did she give this to you, to me? Because it's a promise. Of what? That if we ever need her again, if the situation is desperate enough, impossible enough, she'll come. How would we even contact her? Garza smiled faintly. We don't. She finds us. 2 months later, Mara Vance stood in a crowded market in Nairobi. The heat was oppressive, the air thick with the smell of cooking meat, spices, and diesel fumes. Vendors called out in Swahili, selling everything from electronics to counterfeit designer bags. Tourists moved through the chaos, wide-eyed and cautious. Locals navigated it with practiced ease. Mara blended into both groups and neither. She wore simple clothes, jeans, a loose shirt, a worn backpack. Her hair was longer now, pulled back in a ponytail. Sunglasses hid her eyes. She looked like 1,000 other travelers passing through East Africa. No one looked twice. She stopped at a fruit stand, bought a mango, and moved to a bench in the shade. As she peeled the fruit with a small knife, her eyes scanned the market, not paranoid, just aware. Old habits. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out, glanced at the screen. A single message. No name. Just a number she recognized. Situation developing. Yemen. Hostages. High value. Window closing. Interested? Mara read it twice. Then she typed a single word. Details. The response came immediately. We'll send coordinates. Usual terms, no oversight, no backup. She stared at the message. Yemen. Where it had all started to fall apart 6 years ago. Where her team had died and she'd been forced to choose between becoming a ghost or a corpse. Going back felt like tempting fate. But then again, that's what she did. She typed, confirmed, send it. The coordinates arrived 30 seconds later. Mara pocketed the phone, finished the mango, and stood. Around her, the market continued its chaotic rhythm, people buying, selling, living, unaware that someone who'd just agreed to walk into a war zone was standing among them. She shouldered her pack and started walking. 3 days later, in a nameless village on the Yemeni border, Mara crouched in the darkness. The target building was 50 meters ahead, a compound surrounded by high walls, guards at the gates, hostiles inside. Intel said 6 hostages, American contractors, captured during a botched supply run. Demands had been made. Negotiations had failed. Now it was her problem. She glassed the compound through a scope, counting guards, identifying patrol patterns, marking weaknesses. The wind was light. The moon was dark. Perfect conditions. Her rifle was already assembled. Her plan already formed. This was what she was good at. This was what she'd become. A ghost. A weapon. A solution to problems too ugly for the light of day. She exhaled slowly, finger resting on the trigger, and whispered into the night, "Let's go to work." Back in the United States, Cole sat in a bar outside Fort Bragg. It was late. The place was nearly empty. Just a few off-duty soldiers nursing beers, a bartender cleaning glasses, and the low murmur of a television playing sports highlights. No one was watching. Cole sat alone in a corner booth, the coin on the table in front of him. He'd carried it everywhere since Garza had given it back. Kept it in his pocket during training, placed it on his nightstand when he slept. Held it when the nightmares came, memories of the ridgeline, the gunfire, the certainty that he was about to die, and the voice on the radio that had changed everything. Hold fast. Help is inbound. He picked up the coin, turned it over. 037. Somewhere in the world, she was out there, fighting battles no one would ever know about, saving lives that would never thank her. And one day, maybe, she'd need help. And if that day came, Cole would be ready. Because some debts, as she'd said, never expire. The boy. 6 months after Carson Valley, Major Reeves received a package. It arrived at his new posting, classified location, classified mission. No return address, no markings, just a plain box wrapped in brown paper. He opened it carefully, half expecting it to be a mistake. Inside was a single item, a coin, number 037, and beneath it, a handwritten note. "Thank you for letting me go." Reeves stared at the note for a long time, then he smiled. Because he understood now. She hadn't needed recognition. She hadn't needed glory. She just needed someone to trust her enough to let her do the job, and then to let her walk away. Reeves placed the coin in his desk drawer, locked it, and went back to work. 1 year later, in a small apartment in Prague, Mara Vance sat at a window overlooking the city. The mission in Yemen had succeeded. The hostages had been recovered, the hostiles eliminated, and once again she disappeared before anyone could ask questions. Since then, there had been other missions, other impossible situations, other lives saved. The cycle continued. But something had changed. The exhaustion was still there, always would be. But the weight felt lighter. Not because the missions were easier, not because the kills bothered her less, but because she'd made a choice to stop running from who she was, to accept that this life, lonely, brutal, thankless, was hers, and that it mattered. Not to governments, not to history, but to the people she saved, the operators who went home, the families who got their loved ones back, the children who still had parents because she'd been there when it mattered. That was enough. Mara stood, walked to her pack, and began preparing for the next mission. Because somewhere out there, someone needed help, and she would answer, silent, invisible, unstoppable. In the end, heroism isn't about being seen. It's about showing up when no one else can, doing what needs to be done when the cost is high, and the reward is nothing but the quiet knowledge that it mattered. Mara Vance had saved 12 lives in Carson Valley. She'd saved hundreds more before that, and she'd save hundreds more after. Not for medals, not for recognition, not even for gratitude, but because when the world needed a ghost, she answered. And that, more than any parade, any commendation, any monument, was what made her a hero. The rain had stopped. The jungle was quiet now. The valley, peaceful. And somewhere in the shadows, a woman walked alone, carrying the weight of secrets, the burden of violence, and the silent pride of knowing she'd made a difference. No one would ever know her name, but the lives she saved would echo forward, rippling through time, touching futures she'd never see. And in the end, that was the truest form of immortality, not being remembered, but being the reason someone else got to live. Final message. True courage isn't loud. It answers the call when no one is watching, and lets the outcome speak for itself.